This is the introduction to Blender. Click on General, which will create a scene with a cube in it. To orbit the camera, press down the middle mouse button and drag around left and right, up and down. To zoom in, if you have a third mouse button with a scrolly wheel, or you can hold down the Control key and drag up and down with the third mouse button. To pan around the scene, hold down the Shift key and the middle mouse button to pan left and right, up and down. To deselect an object, right now this one is selected, just click anywhere in the empty space. To reselect that object, click on it. To delete that object, press the Delete key. To undo that deletion, Control Z or Command Z. Currently, this is the object mode. You can go Edit mode, which is also accessible by pressing the Tab key. And from the Edit mode, you'll have access to the vertices, faces, and edges. Here's the icon for each one of those. To get back to the object mode, Tab key. To move this object, move, rotate, scale, pick the Move tool and drag it on one of the arrowheads. If you want to freeform drag this object, and then you want to constrain it to an axis, press the letter of the axis that you want to constrain it to, such as the X, hold down X, and your object's constrained to the X. Hold down Y, and your object's constrained to the Y axis. Hold down Z, and the object's constrained to the Z axis. Rotation and scale work the same way. Here's the scale tool. Select the object. You can scale it on an axis like this, or if you just freeform scale the object and then press the X key, the scale is constrained to the X axis. Release the mouse button and then you're done scaling. Rotation, like this, or clicking anywhere in this gizmo, freeform rotation. To lock it to the Z axis, press the Z key, and now it'll orbit around, take 4, now it'll spin around the Z axis. Delete this. To create an object, hold down the Shift A key, go to Mesh, Cube, and that creates the cube that was just there. Well, it's not the same cube, it's a new cube, but I don't think this cube knows there's a previous cube there. To access the sublevel of this object, again, you either could go up here to object mode and use the drop down, go to edit mode, or with the object selected, press the tab key. And now that vertices are selected, 1, 2, and 3 keys on your keyboards are the shortcuts. 1, 2, 3. You can select the Move tool, select a vertex, and just drag it around. And the same is true for the other translations, rotation and scale, and also for the other sub-objects such as face and edge. So I'll press the 3 key to go to face. I'll click on this face, and then I could click and lift it up. I'm going to go back to object level, the tab key. I'm going to do sculpting. Right now, there's not enough vertices to sculpt out. It can be made so as you sculpt, more vertices are added. Right now, I just want to add more vertices, and I could do that by going to this icon, Modifier Properties, clicking on Add Modifier, and selecting Subdivision Surface. I can increase both the rendering and the viewport preview of this. I think this is good enough to start with. I'm going to click on Apply, and once you apply it, it's going to be permanently denser. To see the underlying structure, press the Z key, and you can select wireframe to see the wireframe mode. Press the Z key again, go back to solid, and there's a solid mode. To see this smoother, right click, and instead of shade flat, select shade smooth. I'm going to go back and right click, shade flat, and now I'm ready to sculpt. To sculpt this, select the object and go to this menu. Instead of object mode, select sculpt mode. These are your sculpting brushes. A shortcut to see your sculpting brushes as you're on the area, besides learning the shortcut keys, would be Shift Spacebar pulls up this menu. Release Shift and Spacebar to make it go away. The size of the sculpting brush is determined by the F key. Press down the F key and drag the mouse left and right to resize the brush. The strength of the brush is determined by the Shift F key, and you can increase and decrease the strength. That is also available up here, radius of the brush, strength of the brush. I'm currently holding the draw tool. I'm going to move down and select the grab tool. The grab tool pulls out an area based upon the size of the brush and the strength of the brush. It's a good way to start refining a model. No extra details added to this sculpt. To add extra detail, go to the top setting of this ribbon, scroll down, and turn on Dino Topo. And this will give different selections to add more detail as you use the brush. Click OK. Now I'm going to switch to a new brush. Let's say I'm going to use clay strips. And as I paint out the clay strip, the mesh becomes more dense. Pressing the Z key, going to wireframe mode, orbiting around, more density was added to the area that I was brushing. Z key, back to solid. To smooth this out, I'm going to use the smooth brush. The shortcut for the smooth brush is the Shift key. Hold down the Shift key with any brush and it will smooth out that area. This area jumps a lot because there's not a lot of vertices. Just jumps right back in. While this area smooths out because there's a lot of more information that can be pushed around. So with any brush, the Shift key smooths. Without any key selected and just dragging, it will apply that effect. So this will pull out this area. If you want the brush to act the opposite way as a push, you could try pushing, and that worked. But with some of these brushes, such as scrape, you might want an opposite effect. So hold down the Control key. We'll do the opposite force on the brush. So grabbing with the Control key, it becomes pushing. And that's your brief introduction to sculpting. To save this file, File, Save As, and you could save it wherever you want. If I want to export this to use in a different application, I'll use File, Export, select the format you want to export it as, and just save the file. I think this one looks kind of like a boulder. Export. Then you can import that exported FBX into Unity, Maya, or any other application that supports FBX.